motion, is there any addition or changes to the minute
No.
or agenda?
No.
Okay.
Move the agenda
Sure.
forward.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved as printed. Now we are on to the minutes of June 12th. Okay, is there support?
Support. It worked.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved as printed. We are down to number 5, limited public comments. You have 3 minutes.
She can have 4 minutes.
Oh, you guys are sweet. I just wanted to come and share the good news. I don't know if you guys heard about the state budget, but we got the money. So, yay, yes, thank you. And I just really had to come and thank you guys, like, personally, because I got personal phone calls from all over the state that said Eaton County was a major factor in making this happen. So the extra work that you did, putting that resolution through, making phone calls, showing up at meetings, speaking on the behalf of the MEAT program and the Conservation District, it all made a difference and it worked. And so no change to the budget. We've got all the same amount of money coming in next year as we did this year. And what's great is they have also approved a study to be done. So there's going to be a legislative study on conservation districts to see what value they're bringing and whether or not maybe they should be increasing in future years. Because the truth is, all of our neighboring states are doing, we get, in Michigan, they're giving us $3 million for all conservation districts. But our neighboring states are getting more, between 12 to 18 million. So we're not doing what we need to do to protect our natural resources here in Michigan. So my hope is that that study is going to lead to better things in the future. So that, to me, that's even the biggest win. So thank you. Had to deliver the good news myself. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for the good work.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess E-Tran, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're
Commissioner.
welcome.
Brad Funkhauser from E-Tran. I appreciate the opportunity to update you today. You know, we were talking at our recent board meeting, and one of the revelations is that we are approximately halfway through this 3-year pilot, surprisingly enough. It goes very fast, but I'd like to compliment the chair and also the commissioners for their support of this pilot because, one, I believe it's working, and number two, I think we have carved some new paths that I think you're going to be pleased with. First of all, allow me to update some of the new services. Beginning of May, we launched a second connector in Grand Ledge, and that is hourly service that connects to the Walmart parking lot in Delta Township at the same location that the first connector that we launched in January also meets, as well as the Route 3 from CATA. So they are able to, kind of like you do in an airport, kind of a time transfer location there. And this allows people to go from either of those locations directly into Lansing and back, or the other direction. It provides a lot of freedom for transportation. So is it working? Well, the Charlotte connector we saw last week reached an all-time high of almost 80 folks in 1 week. That's almost doubled from January. That's fantastic service right out front here. Since May, the Grand Ledge is increased steadily and at about 45 folks a week right now, and we expect that to continue as people get used to it and try it out and so forth. The other thing I should bring to your attention is that on the other side, we've been able to continue hiring drivers. We bring them aboard full-time. This is an update I brought to you last time that we were kind of looking for that sweet spot when trying to equitably hire drivers in this work market, get them trained, get them comfortable as public transit drivers, and it's a very competitive market. So by using the vans that we got from CATA, we've been able to get folks trained at a less trained CDL level, if you will, before they get into the large bus. So we've created a kind of a stepping stone training program, and it has allowed people to pass their tests and move forward, and it's not an all or nothing. So we continue to be able to bring in 3 and 4 people at a time, hire them, and that rate that we set and the full-time benefits seem to be that sweet spot where we're able to grow at a reasonable pace. Finally, I want to bring to your attention that we got a new grant from MDOT, $1.6 million for the region, which E-Tran and CATA and Clinton Transit will benefit from. This will allow us to look at micro transit service. This is kind of a new concept where they call it first, last mile. They call it all kinds of neat things. Basically, people compare it to public Uber, where you're putting more of the control of scheduling, live, on-demand technology, putting the freedom into the customer's hands. And where this is really going to help is with the new Amazon plant, and where the new Ultium plant and third shift of GM, and maybe even the airport. So we've got a couple of pilots that we want to launch with CATA and Clinton later this year, where we're going to be able to test that technology out. This is all neat, but allow me to give you one more tidbit, which I think is really the essence of why we do this. And I know a couple of the commissioners were out at the ribbon cutting at Grand Ledge. We had a citizen that was so excited about this new service because he is an E-Tran rider, but he does the curb to curb. And this allowed him to go to his restaurant job and be able to schedule, it provided him more freedom to schedule back and forth his work schedule. He was so excited that he actually cut the ribbon with us and rode the first trip. I won't tell you who he is for privacy reasons, but you really, those are the neat stories and why we do this, because that's the freedom of what we're trying to do and the responsibility that we have to coordinate services. I really want to tip my hat to the commissioners and Mr. Chairman. You know that Peckham closed in Charlotte. We got a phone call late in that process that said, what do we do? We have multiple folks there that depend on E-Tran, and now they are being relocated to the Peckham services up in Delta. So we picked up the phone, because I know people over at CATA, and we got a group of people from E-Tran, a group of people from CATA. We sat around the table and we said, we've got everything we need, make this work. And 13 people were able to get relocated with services either from E-Tran or CATA, or a combination of two, and allowed them to relocate up there. And we did that quickly. And I say that because this is really the essence of what this program is about, is it isn't, well, call somebody else, figure it out. We have everything we need to do a really good job at this, and I'm proud to tell you that they're able to continue those employment jobs up there. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll be happy to take any questions if you so.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Brad, you touched on the ridership of the connectors, the new connectors, and I think it's important that the board knows that the Charlotte connector, there is a stop downtown at the old courthouse, and then there's a stop here at this new courthouse. A lot of the ridership is coming from people to and from the courthouse, which we knew was going to happen. And so it's a direct service for the county and for the courthouse and for residents to be able to access those services here. So I'm very excited to see that continue to grow. Brad, you didn't touch on, at least I didn't hear, the Route 3 ridership, which is phenomenal and I think is worth talking about. So
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Chair. The Route 3 extension, and again, we started this a year ago, May. We extended it from the Lansing Mall out to the Walmart to be able to hit these connections. In fact, one of the things we want to do, and we're meeting with Clinton Transit, we being the E-Tran CATA folks, are meeting with Clinton on Friday to actually ride out to Delta and show them that connection point, because we're trying to get them to do a connector up into Clinton. And again, these are on the transit app. So you're able to plan your trip, see the live bus tracking, and it really puts a lot of freedom into the hands of the customer. To the chairman's point, not your chairman, my E-Tran chairman, we started last May at about 1,200 trips, and that's just the segment between the Lansing Mall and Walmart. And we're pushing about 4,600, 4,700. That's explosive urban service. So you have a lot of people moving between those 2 points. One thing that we're looking at by request of the E-Tran board in Delta is, who are these folks? We have a lot of people in Walmart vests that are going to Walmart. There are a lot of people with bags coming out of different retail locations who are shopping. But we want to have a really good idea, kind of origin and destination, if the stops are in the right place. Do we have a lot of employers that could be offering transit passes to incentivize people to go to work? But the ridership has just exploded out there, and we're very excited about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then just one thing, if I may, Madam Chair. You know, Brad touched on the fact that E-Tran and CATA got together and took care of Peckham, which, as we sit here, sounds so easy, right? This hasn't happened for decades at E-Tran and CATA. I mean, this is something that I'm very proud of that we were able to accomplish with Brad's help, is the coordination between the agencies. That has not existed in the past, and for it to exist today is a huge benefit for all of the riders in Eaton County and the entire region. And so, you know, I kudos to Brad, and because anytime there's an issue like that, whether it's in Eaton County, Clinton County, Ingham County, Brad's at the table trying to figure out how do we get people to where they need to go, which is what public transportation is all about. So I'm very proud and excited that that's where we're at right now, and I want to see us continue to move forward with that regional cooperation. So thank you, Brad.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind,
No, I don't mind because, but let me make a comment.
Sorry.
I really want to mention what Terrence said because I sit on a continuum of care. And I was wondering when Peckham was leaving, you know, how are these people that have disabilities or are going to get to work? And because I know Peckham really helps out a lot of people.
very important part of the community. What I was going to say, Madam Chair, is humbly, I appreciate the compliment, but my job is to get those people around the table after we get the phone call, because they know what they're doing. Both groups do. In fact, when I get them together, they actually really enjoy working together because they both do this. So the call comes in, and the first thing I say is, of course, we'll help. And then I hang up and go, what do we do? And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy doing that, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. The staff really is passionate about helping people in this community. Thank you.
Peckham is very, very appreciative of you working with them, by the way. They called me and said, who do we contact? How do we do this? And I gave them your name. So very, very appreciative of that. The program directors that are on the ground helping those people are very appreciative. And from what I understand, it's working out very well for them.
Thank you.
Lake?
And I would like to thank Brad. You know, for 16 years I've been on this board, and we've been trying to get some sort of service to people that need it. I mean, we've had this transit service for so many years that was not touching the lives of people that were most in need. And now I'm watching the pilot program in Grand Ledge, and I routinely see E-Tran bus going into the senior complex and picking people up. You know, before it was a dial-a-ride and it was haphazard, and now I'm actually seeing people that are waiting for the bus to come because they want to go to Meijer. You know, I mean, little things. It doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but if you're a person with a disability or you're aged and you need to go to Meijer, yeah, it's only a couple blocks away, but now a bus will stop, pick you up, and take you there. And it's really been a joy for me to see this happening, and I'm looking forward to it, this pilot program working and finding other opportunities to help more people that are in need of public transportation.
You have anything else for us?
No, ma'am.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Construction code?
Good morning. Mr. Garrison would like to extend his apologies for not being here. This week, he happens to be doing our inspector co-op program with Delta Township, where when they have an inspector that's out on vacation, we fill in, and vice versa. So he's a little overbooked with inspections today. I am here in his absence. Are there any questions regarding the report?
Any? Guess not.
Thank you.
Way too easy. DIA update?
Good morning, everyone. Some general updates for you. The departments is still in event season, and with event season, we also do public education, specifically youth education. And this month, on Thursday, July 11th, in Lincoln Brick Park, and on Wednesday, July 17th, at Bennett Park, the Department of Resource Recovery will be doing youth education, teaching about recycling and composting, featuring our composting worm bins, which are very popular with the children. So we're looking forward to our education programs. Our county projects or programs, on June 15th, we had Recycling Fever in Charlotte, and it was very successful. We met and exceeded a lot of our goals. Our registrations continue to go up. We had 552, and we're starting to get in numbers from our vendors. Most recently, actually, yesterday morning, we got an email from our household hazardous waste vendor, and we officially recovered 17,697 pounds of household hazardous waste, which is a 20% increase from our spring cleanup event in May. We're still waiting on our electronics recycling numbers, but we anticipate that those have increased too from our May event. Our Eagle infrastructure recycling trailer, I'm sure there's questions about. We just received the title and proof of sale in the mail on Monday, and we are working with the controller's office to get the registration plates. And once we get the registration plate, the license plate, and get the vehicle registered, we will be ready to be operational. And we are still expecting to have our first day of operation on Thursday, July 18th in the village of Vermontville. And the village is using our trailer to help advertise, utilizing its own resources through email and text, and additional promotions are going to be taking place around the township and the village for our kickoff event.
Did the trailer get delivered yesterday or no?
No, the trailer did not get delivered, but we will be ready for when it comes. Yes, Commissioner?
Are we working with, I assume, working with Logan to do some sort of promotion of that event on the 18th in Vermontville? Thinking it might be cool to just even do like a ribbon cutting type of an event there, the launch of the trailer.
Yes, we would like to work with Logan, and we could definitely do something like that.
I thought I saw Logan back there in the back of the room. Okay, thanks.
He's not looking up.
I'm busy.
Yep. An update from the Calhoun County CARA Hub and Spoke pilot that we are working on, and again, in anticipation of the materials management plan. We've received approximately 3,288 pounds of recycling materials from Calhoun County, with a total billing of $598.06 so far. And with our MOU, the amount that we're charging Calhoun County is enough to cover our labor and materials for receiving the recycling materials, and then we'll also be generating extra revenue through the sale of the materials when we reach those thresholds. And an update about the, yes.
If I may, sorry,
Yes.
those numbers, can you put that into context for us, that 3,200? Is that, so first of all, is that for, it looks like it's for 2 months here, 3 months?
Correct.
Okay, how does that relate to the collection? Maybe you don't know this offhand, but the collection at, say, Mulligan that we collect on a regular basis. Is that similar, or is that a lot more than what we would get?
It's a significant amount.
I'm just
more
trying to
material.
figure out how much extra load it's putting on. I mean, it sounds good as long as it's working well, but I'm just trying to figure out how much that 3,200 pounds is compared to our.
Debbie can speak on that.
Do you mean Sunfield?
Yeah, did I say Mulligan?
said Mulligan,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, I
so
meant
that totally
Sunfield.
threw
Yes, sorry.
So as far as how much, they.
I was just testing
They bring
you.
in significantly more than Sunfield does.
Okay,
They have, their center is in Marshall, and it is the only center they run currently in Calhoun County. So it has a significant more amount of plastics. than-
would you say it's comparable to like a Charlotte, to Cara, or?
I think that would be a good
Okay.
estimate. It's hard to say as far as Delta. Sometimes the numbers that we get there don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. They're
Right.
pretty, it could be comparable to them also.
Gotcha, okay, okay, all right, good, thank you.
Yep.
I promise I'll stop interrupting, Jared.
No problem. And finally, in our report, the materials management plan, the official notice of intent was submitted to Eagle on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. We are still waiting for an official response by Eagle to ensure compliance with the submission, and working with the controller's office, we are confident that our submission is within compliance. And the Department of Resource Recovery, acting as the designated planning agency, will be submitting a resolution next month to establish the Materials Management Planning Committee. And this is the final step before we can begin work on the official Materials Management Plan work plan. And the purpose of the planning committee is to develop the work plan that we'll be implementing to be compliant with the Part 115 update. And the planning committee consists of 13 member positions who direct the DPA in preparation of the materials management plan and advises counties and municipalities regarding the MMP. And during this process, during the next month, the Department of Resource Recovery will begin soliciting for the planning committee membership. And in the notes here, there's a list of required qualifications for the planning committee. And if you see down the list, we will be requiring an elected official from the county. So whether it's the board, somebody on the Public Works and Planning, or another elected official in the county, we will be asking for a public official to be representative on the planning committee, along with elected officials from townships, cities, and villages, and a significant amount of private sector membership with waste haulers, waste diversion operators, and composting facilities. So we will be, again, soliciting for membership and be submitting a resolution to officially establish the planning committee next month.
Yes, Blake.
Jared, I want to circle back to the trailer. I'm really tickled that you've got it. It's a great PR for your department and in Vermontville, which is the center of the news these days. I saw Jim on TV yesterday. What, do you have a schedule for the rest of the summer for some of the other locations?
We are looking to really pilot and, for lack of a better strategy, make some mistakes in Vermontville before we start.
Sounds like my youth.
Before we begin soliciting and looking at other areas. We are looking very closely at Eaton Rapids Township. There is a need in Eaton Rapids Township, Calamo Township, and a couple other townships that we're really looking at. And we're going to be contacting the townships and the local villages, most likely the clerks, to gauge interest and whether or not we can use public facilities. Because one of the biggest limiting factors with the trailer is identifying easy to get to sites that are accessible for the populations that we want to serve.
Yeah, generally, I look at the parking at each of the township halls, they have adequate parking and you can get off to the side, and it just seems like a natural place
Yep.
in a lot of situations that's where it would be. And again, it's great promotion of the county and of your department, and that's what I'm looking forward to. People need to realize that they have opportunities to recycle without having to wait, to a certain time, or some people wait until, Recycle Palooza, and nice to be able to do it regularly. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I have a comment. Oh, yes, Brian.
Madam Chair. Question, I was down the fair booth yesterday with Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Holmes. We had a young man stop in, that he's a scrap hauler, and he was asking, is there anywhere in Eaton County that he can take Freon from appliances, or does anyone in the county take the appliances that have Freon in them?
Debbie can answer that.
Thank you.
Now, when you say take Freon, he's not removing it himself, is he?
Well, he's not at the moment, but he was asking, refrigerators, air conditioners, freezers, that kind of thing. He picks up scrap metal. He's glad to disassemble them, but he doesn't have any way to recover the Freon, and he doesn't know anybody that does.
Well, given that he's a scrapper, that makes it a lot different, because around here, Cara will take them, and the scrapyard next door to Cara will take, but they're taking the entire appliance. They're not taking just the Freon. If he wants to just remove the Freon, he would be, to stay compliant with regulations, he would have to hire someone with the proper licensing to come and remove it, and that would be pricey.
So in other words, we don't have anybody.
There may be someone here who is licensed to do that within the county, but they're not going to do it for him for free.
Okay, that's the problem. We've got appliances sitting around, people contact him all the time, and he's told them, I can't take it unless you pay for all, the transportation, the disposal, all that stuff. So he was wondering if there was a better way to do that in Eaton County. Is that something we should look into?
It is, because we can't take them at our events, because it's too pricey to have someone on site remove them. I did tour Emmett County a few years ago, and they take Freon. They just line everything up, and then I think 3 or 4 times a year, they pay to have the proper people come in and remove the Freon, and then they scrap the appliances for the metals in them. But they also charge the people who drop those off, $20, $25, which I think most people would be happy to do, but we don't have the safe place to hold them. If you do it at an event, you have to have someone on site, and I'm sure you can imagine how much it costs to get someone to come on a Saturday, stand out in the weather and take Freon out of appliances. I think a lot of what happens around here with the scrappers, because we know there's a whole lot of scrappers and none of them are licensed to basically do what they do in the county. They're removing it themselves and they're dumping it in their backyard. They're dumping it someplace that, it's the only option. If they're taking it to the scrapyard without the Freon, they've removed it themselves.
Well, that's definitely a possibility, yes. But I know from working at an implement dealer in years past, we had a Freon removal device. It was a pump with a filter, and we had a company come pick up their used Freon in the canister. You have to be licensed to draw it on that Freon?
My understanding is, yes, you do have to be licensed, and the regulation could be different for us as a county entity. I could certainly look into that further. When we looked into it at the time, we were just doing a basic, we were seeing if there was a possibility that we could start taking it. It looked like it was going to be too expensive for what we would be able to do at the time. We could look into whether if we charge $20, $25, which is what, if you take it to someplace like Friedland or Schupan, they're likely to charge you between $20 and $30 per item that has Freon. If we could charge something like that and then be able to pay for it that way, I think it would be a fantastic thing to have for the community. Especially if maybe event style. We're working on the electronics recycling trailer, and I don't think it would work with that because of it being mobile and being around, unless we would have to look at the regulations of how we can haul it from one place to another. We have a lot of regulations when it comes to things like that, like tires. I can't, under our tire grant, I cannot go pick up tires and drive them someplace. They have to come to our event, they have to be put in the trailer at the event, the trailer door has to be locked and closed, and then the tire company has to come get it. If I was to drive around and pick them up on the side of the road or something myself, I would be violating our grant. So there's some little situations like that we have to face.
All right.
But if we could do it, I think it would be fantastic for the entire county. And
There's a certification that I just found online I can send to you to get certified.
okay,
I didn't think there was much to it because you're not charging systems, you're simply drawing out Freon. I mean, I've run the equipment, I'm not certified, but I ran the equipment at the dealership a couple times, it's real simple to do. It's basically a vacuum pump with a collection container. All right, thank you.
Terrence?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, don't they take the scrap yards, can't they do it there? At like Padnos and whatnot, don't you take it and they charge you a fee to remove it?
yeah, yes, they do. But it's, the scrappers, they're picking up to get the weight of the metals.
Right,
So
right.
they're not going to pay,
Well, and that was gonna be my follow-up is what is and I guess it doesn't matter, but what is does the $25 you pay for it you're not even gonna get that for your appliance, is that what you're saying?
correct. So
Okay.
I think even if we were able to get certified and take Freon at any of our events, that still wouldn't help the scrappers.
Right, yeah, so that service that you're saying we could offer is really there for them at the scrap yards already.
Yeah, so what it would probably do is, I think a lot of people, when they stick an air conditioner on the side of the road for a scrapper to pick, I don't think they really maybe fully understand what is in it or what the end result is going to be.
Yeah.
But if they had an option, a convenient option, and they knew, through our education, that it was maybe a better way to handle it, then we would probably be able to divert some of those from the scrappers.
Yeah. Well, and this is just another example of really, talking about the general aspect of trying to collect hazardous waste in general in the county, which is something that, when we've started this conversation has been a big dream of mine, is to get us to a point to where we can have a collection site similar to they do in Kalamazoo, where they can collect hazardous waste from, because that is a major deal for a lot of our residents, is to be able to have a place to take that hazardous waste. And it's a safety issue too, because right now they're having to hold on to it and, go to events when they have events, or they have to drive it to Lansing or Kalamazoo or wherever they have to go. So yeah, that's another example of something that hopefully we can grow into, being able to do, those types of things and collect those types of things here in the county. So as we look at new
like to
models.
see that also.
Yeah. I knew you would agree with me, Debbie.
To Commissioner Augustine's point, this young man, his job, or what he does, he dismantles them, separates the dissimilar metals. There's aluminum and steel and glass, all plastic, all that stuff. His comment was that he had to go someplace with the appliance, have the Freon taken down, go back to his place, dismantle it, go back to the salvage yard. So for him to make money on appliances, he said it's very difficult. So that's, Padnos will take them, but you're gonna pay to get rid of it and you're not gonna make anything off. So one person taking the refrigerator, air conditioner, whatever up there is fine. But for him to do it as a commercial hauler, he said it's not worth it.
Yeah, and I really commend him that he takes that step, because I certainly think a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And it shows a level of integrity with him that is very commendable. How we could help him particularly, I just don't know. We certainly could, wouldn't have the ability to go to people's businesses and I think we're stretched a little thin as it is with who we have.
Oh, I
many
understand that, yeah.
Employees we have now. But unfortunately, the fix for that might not help his business. It might be one of those situations where if we could start taking it, it wouldn't be positive for him, but it could be positive for the overall county.
Well, my suggestion to him was he should start up a collection agency and go around to the scrappers he knows. That might be more lucrative than just hauling scrap.
Hey, there you go. New business created.
Yeah.
Any others? Is that all your report? Thank you. You got more?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, all right, thank you, very good.
Thank you.
We're down to parks.
Good morning. I'll give a few highlights and then turn it over to our park staff and they can give more detail in their reports. As we talked last month, we've developing a project priority list of some of the footbridges and stairs and so forth at some of the parks that are in disrepair and need replacement or repaired. I'm working with Technology Services and the GIS team to have an interactive map to where if there is a trail closure or a bridge that's out, we can put it on a map and the public can click on that icon and it'll tell them that that particular section of the trail is closed. It'll also keep a list of the repairs. It'll keep a list of the repairs that we can stay on top of with the Parks Department as well. So moving on to Crandall Park, last month we gave an update on the fire situation with the dock. Feigner Boat Lift and Dock Company here in Charlotte reached out to us and stepped up and offered to donate a dock to us. That's currently in production. Almost double the size that we had before, so that was pretty significant. The old dock spanned out from the shoreline about 25 feet, and this one's going to be close to 50 with a T at the end, so a larger type fishing pier. So that was greatly appreciated. Eric with Technology Services met with a camera company yesterday, and we have another demo next week. I wasn't available yesterday to meet with them, but we're looking at options for cameras, both electrical and solar options. We've got some demos en route. They're shipping to us that we can try out and get those deployed, get them tried out, and then we're looking at both that for lighting as well in the interim until we can figure out what the electrical situation out there and the long-term plan. If I don't want to rush in and put a bunch of electrical out there and spend a lot of money and then decide that it's in the wrong spot or we came in from the wrong road or whatever the case may be. So we're looking at all those options. We met with the DNR fisheries biologist a couple weeks ago and go over the fish report at Crandall Lake, and he made some recommendations for adding structure to the lake and gave us some options and recommendations on how to accomplish that. He also recommended that we opened it for harvest fishing. So said that the report was, he didn't see any reason why we couldn't open it to state regulations, fishing harvest for the residents to utilize. It is a private lake because it's surrounded by all property that the county owns. We could mandate our own fishing regulations, but then it becomes problematic to enforce. So his recommendation was to open it to state regulations. Then our conservation officers at the state level can enforce if there's overharvest or so. More to come on that. That's just something that we'll decide to do, and then we'll put it out to the public. And I believe he said that they would add a page or a blurb in their fishing regulations announcing that Crandall Lake would be open to public fishing. So Dyer Kiln update. So The restoration project has been a little problematic with the contractor that was in place last year. They've had some issues with their company, so we're looking at other options. And I've met with several contractors to try to get keep that thing moving with the restoration piece. I spoke with Pat Terrell yesterday, had a good conversation with her, kind of gave her an update of where things were, and she mentioned to me or reminded me of the historical marker ceremony that's coming up here Thursday, August 9th at 6:30. I think she mentioned that you plan to be there, Jim, and if any of the other commissioners feel free to join us. And then finally at Fitzgerald, we meet weekly with the park staff. Yesterday we meet on Tuesdays. Yesterday we walked through, looked at the old naturalist building that's in disrepair. We had our construction folks out there, our construction codes. I just asked for a recommendation or a professional opinion from Chris Garrison on the state of that building, and it was his opinion that it was beyond repair, that we should look at demolition and reclaiming the site for, a future building if that's what we choose to do. So looked at that yesterday, kind of it's a little bit problematic because of where it's located. You can't just drive up to it. There's a ditch or a ravine, I guess you would call it, with a short distance of a bridge there. So to get construction equipment over that would be problematic. But I think after looking at it, it's not as difficult as I first thought. So other than that, if you have any questions for me, otherwise I'll turn it over to the.
Yes, Brian.
Morning, Chad.
Morning.
Thanks for your report. What is our role now with Fitzgerald Park? Are we just maintenance, or do we do everything? What agreement do we have?
We're still operating under the lease that we've always operated under.
Well, I mean, I'm curious about putting $100,000 into a park that the Eaton County doesn't own. That's my concern.
That is a concern. We're leasing it, and I guess that's up for us to determine whether that we invest in that.
Okay, so it's under a lease agreement. So, I mean, does that mean that any building that's there we have to repair, or any other structure we have to pay for? I just am not clear on this operating agreement we have, and I mean, I understand we've got the money through the millage, but I want to make sure that we're not paying for something that isn't ours and won't be.
I guess I'll have to review the lease agreement in more detail. I don't have that answer right now.
All right, okay, thank you.
Yes, Blake.
And I would just comment that, under the lease, I have no doubt that the lease will be renewed. And we're at a point now where Grand Ledge has starting to figure out what they need in that area because they've gotten their bids back. They're putting together construction plans. Understand that the only reason the lease wasn't renewed was because there were areas that Grand Ledge may have needed for their new water treatment plant. They may have needed, and they've got that, they're working that out, and I think it's really reaching completion where they're gonna let bids, and they know what they're gonna need, and I think a lease will be available. And at that time, there shouldn't be any concern that somehow the city of Grand Ledge is gonna take over the park and take over our capital investment, because that, they have no interest. I can't speak for them, but I know for a fact they have no interest in doing that. They're happy with us running the park. They like the quality of the service that we've done at the park. And the only reason that there was any time not getting that lease signed was because of their ongoing infrastructure plans. And we're at the point where it'll be taken care of soon.
Yeah, I understand that aspect of it, and I'm not concerned with the city of Grand Ledge forcing us to return it to them. That wasn't my issue. We're looking at a property that we don't own and we basically manage, and whether we are going to share that cost with that stairway, or if it's up front, it's the county's expected to pay that. That's not my only concern.
So in terms of that specific lease, I don't know. I'll have to review that.
Yeah.
Other buildings that we lease and properties through the county, most generally, we are responsible for maintenance and building upkeep.
I don't have to read the lease to tell you we're responsible for that. we lease the property, so that's our
It's
responsibility.
also a safety issue.
Oh, I
And that
understand
was
that.
one of the things with the millage program that we wanted to make sure that we were handling those issues first. So it is something, and I know that Ben Youngs will talk a little bit about quotes as far as how to handle that. There was discussion about a switchback versus stairs. He can go over that with you. Originally, there was a $45,000 quote. That's not available at this time, so again, working on that. We'll let Ben discuss it.
Yes, Terrence.
Just a quick question, Chad, before you step away. The dock, I missed that conversation, the timeline on that.
So it's in production, and I think she said 3 to 4 weeks, so we're getting close. I'm hoping to have it before there's an event out there in August.
Okay.
That's,
It's a big black eye out there right now, I can tell you that. And you have to push your kayak in by yourself. What the heck?
So yeah, I approved it here a week or so ago. They gave me a rendering of it, and so it's in production.
Okay.
I think their production facility, she said, is actually up in UP in Gwinn, Michigan, and then they'll bring it down and then turn it over to us. Our park staff will install it, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Eaton Community Health's having their annual fundraiser out there on August 14th, so fingers crossed, it'll be installed before their big fundraiser out there.
Anything else? Anybody else?
Question
Yes.
about a dock. You don't have to take that in the winter, do you? It's,
We do, yep.
okay.
Because of the size of the lake and how it sticks out there, will prevent any damage the ice might cause.
Okay, just curious. Thanks.
If it's like any of the other Feiner products I've seen, it's nice vinyl sections. I mean, it again, I'm overstating how easy it'll be, but or understating, I should say.
Never easy.
But yeah, I mean, you're not hauling in an old heavy dock, so ideally it should be manageable.
Yeah, they're designed for that specifically, so. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to, I think Ben's next on the list. He can give you some updates, and then Ethan will follow.
Morning.
Well, it's on usual business. Water samples have been submitted to the health department for quarterly testing from each of our wells. Seasonal staff and Logan Miller continue to reliably perform quality work. So get right to the stairs at Fitzgerald. We got that $100,000 Green Shield quote. I'm still awaiting quotes from Teach Out Building, who requested photos and measurements and hasn't responded. One construction company came and looked and respectfully declined. I'm meeting today at 4 p.m. with another company for another quote. And the company who initially quoted it last fall has failed to return calls. I think they got frustrated over the whole switchback versus stairs situation, and they won't talk to us anymore. But and then the Keeney Boardwalk, same way. I'm waiting on quotes and meeting with contractors for that. LB Residence, I got one quote from the same company who quoted the initial abatement. So for a total of $36,000, they would demo the house and take care of the asbestos. Still waiting on quotes from other demolition companies, but $36,000 seems reasonable. I'm not in that business, but hopefully everything will be in that ballpark. Lincoln Brick Interpretive Center HVAC was installed on 7/2 and 7/3, so that's all in and running, keeping the kids cool at camp right now. What else do I have? Basically, we're continuing to prioritize the repair and removal of unsafe structures at all the properties. Additional signage is being added. We had a concerned citizen bring a request to the Oneida zoning office about some steep stairs on one of the hiking trails at Lincoln Brick Park. They are steep, and they're on a hiking trail, but they are safe and sturdy. And she recommended, the lady from Oneida recommended that we just put up some signage that says, warning, steep stairs, use handrails, caution, slippery when wet. So I had those signs made, and they're gonna be hung up. Additional lighting, so Chad's working with the contractors and IT, but in the meantime, we've put up solar motion lights at a lot of places just to kind of scare people off. And we're continuing to identify and prioritize the removal of dangerous trees on all the properties as well. That's all I had. Chad mentioned the dock situation.
Yeah, Ben, the house that you're removing, so basically nobody wants to take it and move it.
Correct.
So we're gonna just demolish it. What's your thoughts of, what are you gonna put there? Just have vacant ground or what?
I sort of envision a little parking area and it'd be a trailhead to walk into the Lincoln Brick Park from that side.
That's kind of what I was thinking. It'd be,
Maybe a small playground. I don't think the residents there would be too happy to have anything too complex right next to their homes.
no, but you know, if you don't want to drive on a dirt road for a mile,
Right.
you'll be able to get right there off the
Yeah.
pavement, and you'd have a little place to park, and I think that might be a
Right.
decent use.
Be a good use of that little chunk of land we have.
And people already access the park.
People are parking there today to go fishing and stuff. So
When I was a kid, that's how we all got in.
That's what I was just gonna say, that's how they get to the gravel pit, I know that for a fact.
that's how they get to the party spot.
We all know that spot.
Anything else for me?
Any other questions, comments? Oh, yes.
Good morning. I thought at one point we were talking about a weather shelter. Is that still on the table or?
I think that would be pending the results of this strategic plan, because
Okay.
there were also talks of just expanding the building that we do the camp in. And at that point, you could put a basement in, and then it'd be a multi-use space that could also double as a shelter.
'Cause I don't want to over exaggerate, but let's say that we had one of these pop-up storms, there was a camp going on, there'd be nowhere to put kids right now if they were kind of out grazing or anything, right?
Right. Currently, their safest places in the bathrooms in the building that we have. It's an interior set of rooms with no windows, no exterior walls.
Now, humor me, but like how many kids could you put in there?
All 25.
Oh, okay. So there's sufficient shelter, it's just, it's a bathroom.
The camp licensing people they take the square footage of the building to determine how many kids can attend camp.
Got it.
So the building is sized correctly for that number of children.
So if we had a larger shelter, we could theoretically have larger camps then?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so there's an advantage there. So yeah, I guess I'll just wait for that strategic plan then.
Perfect.
Yeah, Trevor, that was one of the things we talked about in our work group is the fact that if we just expanded that building, we would be able to host more kids because that's really what's holding us back from having more kids in these camps. And so the thought was if we potentially expanded that building, we would have more room for kids and then we could put a basement in that would accomplish the shelter as well. So that's kind of what we were thinking about, where we were thinking about headed, so. Of course, there's a cost to that, obviously. But the nice thing about the camp program is that generates revenue, unlike really any other program that we do in parks. So, so I think that it could help pay for itself that way too, so.
Any other questions or come? Okay. Thank you.
Hello. So, since Liz left, I've taken over management of the camp, as well as taking care of the events that we have coming up, like our car show. Everything's running smoothly with camp. Licensing has been switched over to me. Point of contact for all of our field trips is also all taken care of. The staff are still doing great. You know, they know what they need to do, and they're doing it. And then as far as ongoing projects at Lincoln Brick, we're still working on cleaning out what was an interpretive center. And then we're going to be painting the foyer. And then hopefully this September, once camp's over, we'll start to build some exhibits in the interpretive center. And hopefully we can get that open October, November-ish. And then I'm also currently working with a professor from MSU to catalog our fossil inventory. And they submitted a document to me on just some ideas for exhibits that they have and how we can more effectively show the geological history of the area. So again, hopefully we'll be moving forward with that in October, November. And that'll also be when we move forward with installing some windows and an emergency exit on that side of the building. Then, let's see here. As far as programming goes, next week, July 16th, we will be participating in the Charlotte Science Adventure Camp. I'll be putting on a wilderness wayfinding workshop, so kids will be able to come out and learn how to use a compass. And then this July 13th, we have our car show that's coming up. And then our partnership with the library, we have cemented September 28th and October 12th as a campfire night at Lincoln Brick. And then we're also going to be doing an ultrasonic adventure, a bat encounter. So people can come out, and we now have these acoustic monitors that people will be able to use when we go out at night, and they can ID the bats based on those frequencies. And then we've also purchased a infrared camera. So if we do get some bat sounds, we'll be able to look around in the trees in order to locate those populations. And then as far as mapping goes, John Merrick and I went out and we took some drone footage of Lincoln Brick Park. We also have some drone footage of Fitzgerald Park, and we're going to be putting that into our GIS story maps that will eventually take the place of our current paper pamphlets. So people will just be able to scan a QR code, and they'll have all the information they need when they're out recreating. I'm also working with John Merrick to update our maps. I went through and using our GIS app, I documented which trails were no longer being used. We had a few loops at Fitzgerald that were marked on a map but had been completely overgrown from misuse. So those have been taken off the maps. And then we also have closed down some smaller trails at Lincoln Brick Park in an effort to curb erosion that we've been seeing and also combat what's known as edge effect. So in ecosystems, when you break up a forest into a whole bunch of small sections, that can negatively impact all sorts of flora and fauna. So we're trying to boost the ecology of the park because that is kind of our flagship nature park in the county. Let's see. Tomorrow I will be meeting with a forester to get an estimate on the lumber that is still in Lincoln Brick. And if all goes well, we will be selling that and removing it in the winter season when we've got less patrons out there. And then this Friday, I'll be meeting with an environmental consulting firm, Appel Environmental Design out at Lincoln Brick, and they're going to give an estimate on the overall health of our prairie. And like the prairie was burned in the past, but we want to set up a more concrete schedule for that and do anything else that we can do to really boost the overall health of it, because it's a really unique ecosystem, especially in this area. And then, as Chad said, we met with a DNR fisheries biologist, and in October and November, when we move forward with some of our invasive species removals at Crandall Park, we're going to be using some of those logs and brush to create more habitat within the lake. And then by doing it then, they'll have all winter to sink to the bottom of the lake, and you won't have a bunch of logs floating around while people are trying to kayak out there. And then other news, let's see. Yeah, other than that, we're still looking for a new events coordinator position. But until then, everything's being taken care of. So. Any questions?
Yes.
I just have a comment. This is my first time hearing a report from you, but I've learned something during this, so I just want to shout out to you for a great report there. You really went over a lot. And just out of my own personal interest, do we have anything unique about like the geologic record or any of these artifacts that you're finding that like we could share with like institutions? Because I know that as a Wayne State grad, they have a good geology program. I don't know if MSU does, but it might be worth letting these institutions know that Eaton County has some cool stuff. So
yeah, actually, the professor I'm working with, she's been taking her students to Fitzgerald and Lincoln Park for the past 20 years. You know, it's an incredibly unique area as far as like the fossils you find from the Pennsylvanian era here. That whole area was a swamp marsh, and one of the fossils we have. So typically in those type of environments, when you get a fossil, it's usually in shale. But we've got like a full, have you ever seen like snake grass grows along banks? It breaks up into segments and it just looks like a tube. Anyway, there's like a giant version of that that's encased in sandstone, and that's, according to her, it's really rare. But she said that a lot of the pieces we have are museum quality, so it'll be really exciting once we get this exhibit up and running. Yeah.
And I would just give a shout out to that, the Environmental Center. You know, it used to be down in Fitz in a crappy old building. We moved it to Lincoln, and I don't know how many people get to see what's there. And it'll be good in the future to open up what essentially is a exhibit hall, because it, no offense, but it kind of became a storage room, and it was just full of cool stuff, but no one ever looked at it because it was all stacked in there and it was small. And I think we really have a pretty cool environmental center there and an exhibit hall that in the future we might want to put a little attention to, because I think it's something that attracts people to Eaton County, especially to Lincoln, where we don't get a lot of attraction. And I'm going to throw in one more thing, and that is the car show is on Saturday, and it's a big deal. It looks like the weather is going to be good, and it'll be hot. But it's one of the bigger car shows in the area and attracts a lot of people, and I'll be down there because it's fun. So.
Yeah, and again, on Lincoln Brick, with that professor that I'm working with, you know, because it's such a unique area, she has been in contact with some of her colleagues at the National Park Service, and I guess she's working on possibly, like, it hasn't gone through yet, but it's a possibility, designating it as a national natural monument. So if that happens, you know, it's another feather in Eaton County's cap as far as like bringing people in tourism-wise, just to see these natural resources that we have. But yeah, any other questions?
Any other questions? None?
I just realized that list I passed out was missing some at the bottom, so I just reprinted it. Apologies for that. I just reprinted it. That's a full list now. Ethan and Ben and Chad and I have not had time to sit down together and go over this list, but
If you want, I can go through it right now. I
is
made
the
some notes.
best kind of summary that we had at the time. Yeah, I would just note that the ones that are completed around there are some that are noted as safety issues. So the safety issues obviously are gonna be the ones we'll focus on next. Those were the ones identified by Ben and Ethan from going around the parks. And then the stairs at Fitzgerald, because those have been ripped out. So those obviously need to stay pretty high up. The boardwalk in Keeney, we have 10 years left on that lease. But that boardwalk's in pretty rough shape from talking to Ben and Ethan, so we need to look at doing something with that, as well as the boardwalk at Fox Park is in pretty rough shape too. So those will all be high priorities on the list, along with doing something out at Dyer Kiln, whether we continue to repair it or put a roof over it. So those would be the things that would rise to the top, the house at Lincoln Brick. So there are a lot of items kind of rising to the top right now for safety concerns mainly to do something with. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. There's a few things on here that have been completed since last time we met. So Lincoln Brick Park, the boulders replaced with a 6x6 post. There used to be just a wired chain across that entrance, and we've replaced that with a new gate. And then we repaired the footbridges that were damaged during the storm, but again, just like they're safe to walk on right now, but they're kind of unsightly, so that's an ongoing project. And then Fitzgerald Park, replace multiple footbridges due to safety. That's also ongoing. We did tear out one that was completely falling apart, but we hopefully in August we might be able to replace the other one. And then we're getting quotes for the boardwalk at Keeney. Ben's working on that. And the boardwalks at Fox, we did tear out the old boardwalk. And right now, I don't know if we're going to be replacing those at this time just because the loop itself was really small and it went through a really swampy wetland area that if we were to put a new boardwalk in there, it might be a little bit more costly than we want to pursue at this moment. Then we're waiting on the quotes for solar. So Optimus Park, the bridge replacement due to safety. So we did remove that bridge, but upon further inspection, the trail that bridge was connected to was no longer there. It had been completely overgrown, and there wasn't any maps that we could really go off to discern where it was going. So and I think you mentioned that the people at the Optimus Park did not really want that.
The bridge had gone unused for so long that it became a bridge to nowhere. There was no trail on the other side.
Yeah. So we will not be replacing that bridge, which makes it easier for everyone involved. Yeah, and then we're seeking new quotes for Dyer Kiln. So, yeah, that's all I had on that. Anything else?
Questions, comments?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your report.
I just would like to say that they've done a great job. They've stepped right up. Chad would speak to that, and Claudine as well. Ben and Ethan have just really taken over, and they're assessing each of the parks, doing a great job, reviewing everything. Safety was the #1 concern I think that they had. And Ethan taking over the programs is a big deal and a big task for him. So he's not allowed to be away for more than how many hours? 12 hours. So he's really working hard right now. Appreciate both of you very much.
Brian?
I do have a question. I see on here Crandall Park pole building demolition. What building are we taking down?
Yeah, the barn that's directly adjacent to our storage building.
We're taking that old barn down?
It has never been used by.
We haven't developed the park yet. That's a landmark in this area. There's very few hip roof barns left in this area. We should not take that down.
You want to speak?
Wait a minute, Brian, aren't you talking the pole barn, not the hip roof barn?
Oh, this is the hip roof barn. When they first acquired it, they put some money into stabilizing it. It's still not a safe structure by any means for anyone to go inside of. It might be a nice landmark to look at from a distance, but it's not a usable building for us.
I would suggest we renovate that building. Do you understand the history of that building?
I do not.
We used to have Castagnassos there. They raised Clydesdales for Budweiser on that farm. That's part of that Eaton County heritage. We should not demolish that barn.
I would agree with Brian 100%. As a farm girl, that hip roof barn needs to stay. The pole barn, everybody's got pole buildings.
Yeah.
The hip roof barns are getting to be historical sites.
Okay, they did not put the barn on the list. The barn is a carryover from Travis's list, so that's definitely something that can be discussed. I just want to make it clear, none of us in this room are the ones that put it on that list.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I just
Okay.
hate to see that thing go.
Because I'm with Brian, you're talking to two farmers up here.
So
And, no, that hip roof barn is a historical.
what we need to look into then is stabilizing that structure as soon as possible.
I think we should get Chris out there like you did with the other structure.
I think he has been out there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's many options for restoring those barns. One is putting a new foundation under them. You'd basically cut off the lower half of the wall, raise it up, put it on a concrete foundation, put it back down. So there's ways to do this. And there's a company up in, I think, Clare area, Claremont Pleasant, that they specialize in restoring and renovating hip roof barns.
All right.
Yeah, so to Claudine's point, this is a list that we inherited, so we're trying to pick through it and figure out the best options. That we don't have anybody lined up to demo it. And I'm glad that you brought it up, because now we can look at restoration efforts. So don't think that we got a crew lined up to go out and demo it.
Okay, I'm just reading what it says.
No, you're totally fine. But I agree. I like some of them historic buildings and barns, and if we can preserve it and make it a usable space, then we probably should look at that. So.
All right, thank you.
I think Garrison and Griffith have both been out there, if you can catch one of them.
Okay.
Yes.
To that point, if there's going to be some time that's needed to renovate it, like, is it a safety hazard right now? Like, should we rope it off or something, say, don't come near me? Because it sounds like you shouldn't. I mean, would you go stand under that barn right now on like a windy day, or?
It's not open to the public.
Aha.
It's in our
It's in a staff.
storage area where we keep our equipment and mowers and that sort of thing.
So like a kid's not going to wander into it, and,
Correct.
you know?
They shouldn't know.
Okay. So that's good. Because it'll probably take time to renovate it and do it right.
Oh, certainly would.
Thank you. We're down to miscellaneous.
Yes, we have the current committee appointments that'll be expiring 12/31/24. Those are highlighted in yellow. Thank you, Claudine, we love colors. So what we'll have to do is work on getting applicants or checking to see with these individuals if they want to continue.
The board rules say we'll give you a list in July. That's why you have the list.
Yeah, trying to follow the board rules. That is it.
Current appointment, we're down to limited public comments. Is there any limited public comments? I got one. It's Eaton County Fair. We should get down there and support our 4-H'ers. And I have to, excuse me, but I'm a very proud great-grandma. I have a great-granddaughter yesterday that had the champion market steer. And it's Eaton County born and raised. And that 4-H'er did the work herself, not her parents. She did it. So I just want everybody to note the grand champion steer is Eaton County born and raised and had been well cared for.
It's up for auction on Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
And I'll make note that obviously it's Fair Week because it's raining like crazy.
When I heard the forecast, I knew it was going to rain.
I will, Barbara, you probably don't know this, the City of Eaton Rapids got park community grant money last year to do a pavilion and some things that I believe it's Mills Park. They were gonna do a ribbon cutting today, and Logan was gonna represent the county since we're all here. However, because of the rain, they have changed that to tomorrow. So Barbara, that's tomorrow at 11 now, if that fits into your schedule to attend that ribbon cutting.
Oh, dear, I got a conflict, but okay, we'll work it out.
We'll figure it out. Maybe Jim can go.
Okay? Is there any other business or comments? That we're adjourned. Thank you.